everyone, in this video I will be explaining my building process, and hopefully I can help you guys with your builds. So I could give you all of the building techniques in the world, hidden little things that you could do, like putting bracers up here with these slabs and signs like this, but there's only so much of that I could explain to you guys, and well, there's building and then there's just throwing stuff together, which sometimes can work for building. But instead, I believe that the process in which you build something is far more important than the little tricks and details that you put into it. So let's get started. My first step is, of course, reference images. Now, I normally use vague reference images, like the reference image to build that didn't really look like it, but still, having a good first idea and then pulling up several images, picking one that you like, and then kind of basing your build off of that is always good. Doesn't have to be a Minecraft build, it could be a real life build. Sometimes those work better. But first, I always start with a base. So, for example, I like groups of 3. I could go something like this, to where I have 3 on the side and then this 5 part in the middle. So what this will do is I could put a window here, put the doorway here, and then put another window here. And I could mirror this across just like this. And there we go. I have my supports for my building all set. Now it's a very simple shape, it's just a rectangle, but you could always branch off with other things, like putting out a little extension here, or perhaps on the top you want to do a spiral. But on to step 2. Once I have the base all figured out and my reference images down, is of course getting your supports built up, and then you should put in your walls. So I'm going to actually use stone for placement here, because I will be showing you guys what I normally do for texturing. Now, I do a little bit of fancy cheating here in the fact that I use World Edit to texture most of my buildings. Sometimes I do it by hand, like that one right there. I did this bottom section by hand, but normally when you're working with like 3 or more texturing blocks, it's not always ideal, and using World Edit will save you a lot of time. Of course, if you're doing it in survival, then, well, you can still use World Edit. I don't. I take my buildings and I put them into my actual world, and then I build them from there. So once I have the walls all set up, I want to go ahead and mark out where I want my windows at. So for example, we will be setting 4 windows in just like that. Don't overdo it, it's pretty easy to do that. Windows should be fairly sparse, they shouldn't be on everything. I kind of made that mistake here. As you can see, there are just windows plastered everywhere, and it gets a little hard to make details because everything's just kind of copy and pasted from one place to another. Oh yeah, quick little tip, don't be afraid of empty space. It's fine if you have some. And then once I have all of the windows in place, I want to get the roof done. Now, I'm a big fan of spruce, and a lot of people have told me that I overuse spruce, but who cares? But next, you want to get your roof frame on. You don't really want to do the entire roof just yet, so we're just gonna go for something fairly simple here, just like that. Nothing crazy, very simple design, easy to pull off roofs. So as you can see with this one, there's a deep slate trim across the entire thing. So we could either do something very complicated with this part over here and somehow like make a roof over this part and this part together, or we could do this and increase this by 4 blocks, so that way we have a little bit of height variation in the build. And there we go, we have a left side silo that then we can put a little roof on top. I'm actually going to make this 1 block bigger because I think that roof is going to run into the other roof if I don't. Now that we have another roof over here, I might go for a little bit of a different design. Maybe we could do kind of like almost like a spiral up, but I don't really know what I'm talking about. I'm just kind of like throwing stuff at the wall and seeing what sticks. It's always good to remember that building does take a long process, and oftentimes small adjustments to current builds, such as what I'm doing right here, is sometimes necessary and a part of the entire process. Like, for example, that thing right there, the Elven Spire I call it because of its roof color. I mean, you can see over there, failed attempt. Blackstone roof, although I did keep the same shape. However, this took me about 4 hours to design, so sometimes it can be a lengthy process. Whereas this one over here, Only took me about an hour and a half, an hour 45 minutes. I had my thoughts more organized, and I also didn't have a failed attempt. Now, I'm going to put these wood bracers in here. It helps clean up the space in between the roof and the wall, and it can make future building just easier, because you don't have to worry about the strange space in between the trim and the actual wall itself. Okay, so we have the roof layout figured out. Next, what you need to do is find your block of choice to fill this roof in with. I personally love deep slate with spruce. I think it looks really well, but you could do just about anything. Oh yeah, and just a quick little tip, because this wall is sunken, if the wall wasn't sunken, you don't have to worry about this. I like to put spruce stairs lining up with the outside, or I guess this is the inside of this ridge. So of course these 3 blocks right here with spruce logs, because having deep slate there doesn't look very good. It's just kind of jarring against the wall color and it looks out of place. Also, need to develop a roof for this one, which is going to be a little tricky because I chose a complicated trim. Alright, once you have the roof filled in, now technically you're supposed to do this while you do this wall here, or while you make your first wall, but the second story I'm going to make it a different color, or a different wall. So I really like calcite as the second floor. As you can see, I use it for quite a few builds. There's one right there, one right there, and quite a few others in older worlds. Okay, and as you can see, we have a very basic build here. It's also, well, very bland. There aren't any details to this thing, and texturing goes a very long way when it comes to this stuff too. But you actually have the entirety of the hard part done. Getting the base and the shape right is always very difficult, but now you're actually onto the final step, and that is just adding a few details. Of course, for me, I would texture this world edit. If you were in survival, you would have already textured all this, so you don't have to worry about that. And then, oh yeah, and also there is getting an interior done, which we're not going to do because I'm not good at interiors and I can't really teach those. As you can see with several builds, they're just, well, isn't an interior. I don't know what it is, but I struggle with interiors. Alright, I'm not going to go too in depth with the details on this build, but we're going to do a few things here. So we're going to add a few bushes out front of the house, put some trapdoors and signs on them. Then we're going to do an alternating pattern here of spruce trapdoors and spruce planks, or slabs. We're also going to bring out this end just a little bit like this, give it an interesting shape, take some stairs and run them across the roof like this. Then we're going to make the floor here out of some dark oak slabs. Put a lantern there and a lantern there. And I also like to put some spruce fences out here like this, give it a little bit more support, at least from the looks of it. I'm going to put some spruce fence gates right here, fill in that area a little bit. I'm going to put some trapdoors there as braces. I also like putting signs next to trapdoors, kind of gives it a little more shape. What we're also going to do is actually replace out the bottom of all of these oak log supports with barrels. And then we're going to give this roof a little bit more of a shape to it. So we're going to go right here and put a window in. Well, we're going to follow that same spruce trim like we did over here. Next, we're going to change that to that. There we go, it looks better. Next, we have to do with this piece over here. I'm not exactly sure what I want to do for this. Oh, you can never go wrong with a big bush over here. Alright, I filled in with some stone walls there. We'll come back to this side. We might just leave it as is. Now I just have to figure out what we want to do with this side. I think a window would go perfectly right there, although it's a little small, so maybe that's a little big now. Maybe we actually do a window down here. Alright, we got this side done. Now all we have to do is texture this stone layer, which I do with World Edit, as I have said before. So if you don't know how to use World Edit, and you are using it for one of your builds, then what you have to do is right-click a beginning area, so to encompass the entire area of the house, I did it down here at this corner, and then left-click at another area for a house, so up here. This gets the entirety of the house in. Then you go / replace stone, since we're replacing stone, with, say, we'll go with 4 blocks for texturing, so with 25% stone, comma, 25% andesite, 25% stone bricks, and then 25% cobblestone. And there we go. Just like that, it's textured. You can tell it definitely improves the house quite a bit. Texturing goes along with it just using one solid block. You can even get more complicated and use like a mixture of very obscure blocks and get into some really detailed shading, but that right there is the extent of my shading. I haven't quite learned the complicated stuff yet, so sometimes it's always good to just place miscellaneous oak leaves around, especially since it gives it a little bit more color and it improves with, well, filling in the empty space. So what we could also do is texture the roof. Although be careful because sometimes it will do this, and now they're all in a strange direction, and now I have to fix them all. And there we go, now everything is set and textured. Now my last step is to add a few leaves on top of the roof like this. Just gives it a little more detail, but it's a useful tool to add some more color and green to your build. Don't want to overdo it too much. Make sure it's sparse. You still want the texture of your roof to be seen. And also, another little trick that you can do that I've been kind of wanting to incorporate into my builds is taking little bits of the roof and replace it with moss, and then putting some decorations on it like that. And just like that, the build is done. This is a process for which I do all of my builds for. Except for the big ones like those ones back there. That takes a little bit of a different process, but I could go over that in a different video if you guys want to. It's really not complicated, so it's going to be much shorter than this one, but there are quite a few tools that I use for those ones too. But that's going to do it for today's video. Let me know in the comments if this was at all helpful. I'm not really good at explaining things, so I'm kind of sorry if I didn't help you out as much as I wanted to. I've never done something like this, so it's kind of like my first time explaining something, but somebody asks for it, so I had to do it. So, thank you guys for watching, and I will see you all in this Friday's Let's Play. Goodbye!